Welcome, welcome, welcome. You'll have to excuse what sounds maybe like a war zone as sort of crackles and pops from the fire. First off, I thought I didn't say this in the last video, and I feel it needs to be said, and that is a huge, from the bottom of my heart, thank you to all of you that have supported me, supported this channel, be it words of encouragement or donations. I'm not going to read out names, one, because it would sound like a register and be very boring to everybody else. Two, I haven't asked anybody if they want their name read out. Three, there may be people of a more devious mindset, like a Hannibal Lecter, totally cold and calculating with no empathy, and they may think, oh, that person donated, I'll get in contact with them and give them a email sob story and sort of appeal to their generous nature, which would be really unfair. So all I'm going to say is a big thank you. You know who you all are, whether you've written it in the comments or anything else. So we're at that time of year which, for some bizarre reason, this thing we call, that is known as Christmas, is supposed to be a celebration of the birth of Christ. But you've only got to look at Easter. It's not fixed to a date. It's the first Sunday after a full moon, after the spring equinox. The birth of the sun is the sun, which you can visually see objectified with the external eyes. But that's not what the story is about, and that's not where the birth takes place. The birth takes place in the story when the character called Jesus goes to see John and is baptized and has the birth from above, and the Christ impulse enters into Jesus. You could basically say that's the most famous walk-in soul there's ever been. It's a story, regardless of whether it's true or not, is totally irrelevant, because I could give you numerous examples where this has been played out. For example, Ralph Ellis looking for an historical character, and there is such a one. If you wish to go down that route, then by all means look for Ralph Ellis channel, and you can look into that about King Aesus, the King Aesus trilogy, and how it links to King Arthur. Fascinating. But it follows the same blueprint. You've got a story which is actually a spiritual story of guidance. But the sun you're looking for is not external, because just go and listen to what Ken Wheeler says on Theora Apophasis channel about light, that you don't see light, you only see illumination. Hence, in the languaging, you look up in the sky, particularly in the night sky, they're called luminaries, not lightenaries. You also have to consider a thing called the vowel shift. So the I and the E has changed spelling. So the enlightenment is actually the enlightenment. The only light that you can see is within oneself. But it does replicate exactly what the sun does. It does that seasonal upward lift, passes the equinox, the Passover, in the spring, and then rises, then falls, goes through the autumn equinox, the fall equinox because it's falling, and then to the winter solstice, and it follows this pattern. In that is also an objectified visual story of the blueprint that to find the light within oneself. Just look at the physical body. Now, roughly halfway you have the solar plexus. In the physical sense, that's roughly halfway, but in the chakra system, that's not halfway. That's the heart. It's about becoming heart-centered, and of course, just like this Christ being had to descend and fall to earth, from that solar plexus, the energy has got to descend 2 chakras to the root chakra. There is where you have the cornerstone that the builders rejected, and that is why the builders rejected it, because it is not a physical cornerstone. It is the foundation upon which you build yourself. Referenced also in the Bible about the temple that took, 46 years to build, can be torn down and rebuilt in 3. Well, the 3 is a reference to the Trinity. It's also a reference to the sun will rise after 3 days. Notice also, let's just count this, the 21st, so 3 days, so 22, 23, 24. So it's not even the 25th if you go with that. But the story is about an internal journey inside oneself to find the light. So you could think of the solar plexus as being the SUN or the SON. It's expressed as Jacob climbing the ladder, the Jacob's ladder to pineal, which is the pineal gland, so that would be the Father in the heavens. But of course, between the two is the mother, the heart. Earth is the mother. So this Kundalini rising, it's a rising and falling. It has to start off by falling. Get to the root of the things. This is the wall of Jericho moment, when the world comes crashing down around you. It's not inside you, but you'll pick up on the outside if you react and feel all the worries and fears and concerns that come with that. But internally, that has to happen for that rise to go on inside oneself. To reach the heavens, this is what they reference to the Golgotha, the skull. The birth from above, basically. It's depicted as a white dove coming down. Let thy eye be singular and filled with light. It's talking about the mind's eye. So you can't see the light in this external reality. You can only see light within oneself. That is why it's a secret known only to one. But of course it's been Vaticanized, so people are looking externally for something outside themselves. It's the greatest deception. It's all part of a process. There was what is called the Luciferic Principle. The humanity of the so-called Dark Ages, everybody makes this mistake and thinks and views past history from today's concept without consideration. Something that's also reflected in nature. You'll find land areas where you have coastal erosions and you have coastal deposits. So it's continuously changing. It's referenced in nature. The ebb and flow of the tide creates changes. Likewise, humanity has gone through an evolution. So if we go back to the time of the Greeks, for example, Plato would have never have said, I have an idea. More, it would be, an idea has come through me. Such was the difference in the way humanity thought, the thought process happened. But then we've had this thing called intellect, and we've also got the Ahrimanic principle of materialism. And materialism has dominated increasingly the outlook of humanity. So it will only see things in black and white that can be measured in the material realm, thus hiding where everything comes from, which is in the darkness. Again, this is replicated in the whole process of conceptualization to birth. As Rudolf Steiner explains, the soul spirit plays a huge part in bringing two people together to create a physical body for that soul spirit to come into, to come through, to have another life-death experience. And to use a Neville Goddard terminology, these personified characters in the Bible, or in the story which as shown in the Bible, they're not people, they're states of consciousness. So the ultimate one to play is the one where you have this birth from above and you go through a resurrection. I hope that has clarified what the story really is. It's the story to guide yourself. But who are you? Do you know who you are? I don't mean the physical being, the real you, the essence. Hence the reference to Jesus and the Essenes. The Essenes is the essence. But another name for Jesus, because that's just a corruption out of wisdom that was post-Atlantic, that was salvaged and put together. The personification of the power that's behind the sun, not the sun itself, but the power behind the sun, and expressed as a personification, and of course it's been Vaticanized. But all these characters are just states that you will play. In some ways the most obvious one is Job, which is basically job. What is your work? What are you working at? Are you earning a living? Because that's where you're going to end up. You're going to be retired, and then you're going to end up in an urn, most likely. So it's clues in the language, always. But the only way you'll ever know this is not taking my word for it, not believing in what I say or what anybody else says. The only way you will be able to know this is when it happens to you, and you will know it, because you will feel it inside. It doesn't matter what others think or say, because the physical being will look exactly the same. But of course the physical being is always changing. Consider how a baby will end up looking like an old age pensioner. It's the same being, but with the ability to see a time span, a measurement of time, you can see how the thing changes from one to the other. But it is still the same being, the same essence inside. Well, hopefully. I feel that some may be GMO since 2020, but that's their story. That's all we will say on that. So, fire's an amazing thing. I've deliberately put this as a visual. I wonder how many will even see the visual effects and what it is actually suggesting. Only you know it will know what it means to you. It depends on your spiritual growth as to how much you can see in it. What can you see in the flames, for example? Try doing that with a radiator or a storage heater, and I think you'll get an idea of the difference. It's not seeing the flames, it's seeing into the flames, it's seeing beyond the flames. Because you're in the realm of Maya, it's one with many veils. It's expressed as being like layers of an onion, and that's exactly what it is. The deeper you go inside oneself, the more you will find. Again, comes back to that simple instruction or of guidance, which is seek the kingdom within, and all will be given to you. Or to use a perfect alternative to that, let's cite Goethe. who, from my perspective, it would be like an equivalent of Plato to the Greek era. I see that as the most recent golden age, which that flourish in Central Europe, in the Germanic-speaking world, all that came out in art, of which Goethe is very a central figure of this. And he says, "Know thyself and be at peace with the world." Just think about that. Know thyself and be at peace with the world. If you can do that, I guarantee you, from the experience of it, you will know that to be 100% true. So thank you once again to all of you that listen to this, and hopefully it's given you something to empower within you to find out for yourself if you haven't already done so. If you already have done so, then why listen to this channel? I can only give you my perspective on things from my experiences, and that's all any of us can do. You are the authority, therefore you are the author of your own experience. But whether you are the one that's writing your life story, or whether you are having it written for you, giving away your power to something external, that's, again, entirely up to you. So we'll leave that there, and I will say love to you all.